Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 18 Beta 4 released this week along with iOS 17.6 RC. However, we had an unprecedented release on Friday with iOS 18 Beta 4 re-release. There's even more features to talk about. We'll talk about the experience of both, when to expect the public releases, the next betas, and also some news and the experience of using both of these. Not just my experience, but your experience based off the YouTube community poll, where at the time of this video there's over 20,000 votes and 239 comments. I've gone through all the comments to determine what the experience is like, and we'll take a look at some of your comments toward the end of the video. But first, let's mention a few different things with Apple News and things that happened this week. Private Relay is still an outage for some people where it's just not working properly. So if you're using Private Relay, we'll go down to iCloud with the new setting here, and if you're using Private Relay on your device, some people are seeing that it's unavailable. Sometimes it's on the iPhone, sometimes it's on the iPad, but definitely there's some issues with it that people are seeing. Thankfully, I haven't seen it, but if you're experiencing some odd issues where web pages aren't loading, go ahead and turn that off maybe until tomorrow, and typically that will fix your issue if you're having issues with the internet. Many people have been wanting digital IDs and digital driver's licenses on Apple Wallet, and this is something that takes some time as the states and local governments have to work with Apple to implement it. It looks like North Carolina is set to be one of those states, but next year. Thanks to Mark for sending this in, you'll see digital driver's licenses coming to North Carolina next July. That's July 2025. So it's going to be a while for them to implement everything, but this will be coming to iPhone probably sometime next year. Now, Apple updated Apple Maps this week with a web-based version. If you go to beta.maps.apple.com, it's in beta, and it works just like Apple Maps on your device with guides and more. So you can see different local events, different local best ice cream shops, or everything to eat in San Francisco this summer, and many other areas throughout the country. So if you've wanted to try this out, maybe you don't have the app, you can just go to beta.maps.apple.com and try it out for yourself with directions and more. And to go along with Maps, the Apple Maps app has been updated with the Paris Olympics, with all of the different events, locations. You can see the Aquatic Center, Olympic and Paralympic Village, Deluxe Villa, and much more. So you can see all of the landmarks, and some people are even getting alerts on their phone and notifications to show them that this is available. So if you want detailed information, it's available now if you're using Apple Maps with 3D maps and much more. So if we go to 3D, you can see all of the different locations here. After the Crowdstrike issue that caused a worldwide issue on many Windows computers this past week, Microsoft is working to make Windows more similar to Mac by locking down the kernel. They actually tried this some time ago, but many antivirus companies actually complained, and they decided not to do this for everyone. However, they've posted recently saying that the incident shows clearly that Windows must prioritize change and innovation in the areas of end-to-end resilience. These improvements must go hand in hand with ongoing improvements in security and be in close cooperation with our many partners, who also care deeply about the security of the Windows ecosystem. So this looks like it's going to change pretty soon, and I'll link this in the description if you want to check it out. There's a full article here talking about what they're going to do in the future to ensure that security. Now, we're all waiting to see what Apple has with Apple Intelligence. We want them to enable it to see what it's really capable of, and prior to its launch, Apple has actually agreed to follow some AI safety guidelines by the current Biden administration. And on whitehouse.gov, there's more information about it, but it looks like Google, OpenAI, Amazon, and others have joined as well, basically agreeing to transparency into their AI's activity. So that's something we should see, and Apple's signed on to that as well. And speaking of Apple Intelligence and new features, there's hints of Apple Intelligence in iOS 18 Beta 4 and Beta 4 re-release. If we go into Settings and we go up to where it says Siri, you may or may not be able to see this, but if we tap Siri, at the top it says Apple Intelligence and Siri, but it goes away quickly. So if we go back in and we close out and we go back in again, look for it at the top. If I tap on Siri, it says Apple Intelligence and Siri. So it's definitely there. They just haven't enabled it yet, but we're all waiting for them to turn this on. Now, when it comes to other new features this week, well, there's some things that are sort of working or not, but the dark and light mode icons are now actually synced based on what you have set. So if you go to customize your home screen and you have automatic enabled, once you switch between light and dark mode, the icons now change with that. So let me switch out of this. We'll go back home, and as we switch between light and dark mode, it will switch the icons. So that's something that's actually working properly now. So it's not necessarily a new feature, but it is part of iOS 18 and it's finally working. So that's great to see. So if you want it to switch automatically, it will do that. There's also an update with the Photos widget with Beta 4. If we go over to Photos here, we'll press and hold. We'll go to Edit, and let's add a Photos widget. And once you have the Photos widget, you'll see here that it looks normal right now, but if we go in and we edit, and then we switch to maybe a tinted mode, it now has black or white options. So as you switch through the tint, it will tint the actual photo, but there's a black and white option as well. So if you have a photo of a person or a loved one or family, it actually goes black and white, even with the tinted background. And when you're in dark mode now, another thing that you may have already noticed is the music now playing widget actually is completely black. It no longer has a gradient matching the album icon. So if we switch to automatic or we switch back to light mode, it seems to stay dark all the time. However, I have seen this switch, so maybe it's just a bug for now, but there's definitely some work that needs to be done on it. You can also have dark mode widgets, but that doesn't seem to be working properly. So if we go to edit, and then customize again, you'll see if I switch to tinted, the weather widget goes completely into dark mode, then sort of switches out. If I go to dark, then light, back to dark, back to tinted, then go back out, it will switch back to its regular light mode widget. So it's still buggy. I wish we had an option to easily change that, but it doesn't seem to work properly, at least at this point. So there's definitely some odd things going on with that right now. And you'll see it just switched. If I switch to the next page, come back, it switches back. Now, another thing that's been updated has to do with reminders. If we go into the Reminders app, and this also ties into the Calendar app, but if we go over into Reminders here, and then we go into Reminders, you'll see that we have a new reminder. Maybe I want to add another one. This is another reminder. You'll see that we have that here, and we now have the back button at the top. This is sort of a universal thing where you can go back and forward within iOS 18 or iOS 17, but it's now showing in Reminders specifically. So if I want to undo, I can undo or redo very simply. If we go into Calendar, we have some new options for reminders as well. Within the Calendar, if we go in here and then tap on Calendars at the bottom, we have a new option at the bottom to show completed reminders. We can turn this off or on, and it will either show or not show based on our preference now. Another new thing I think a lot of people will be happy about is some new updates to voicemail if you're using multiple SIMs. So if you have a physical SIM and an eSIM or multiple eSIMs, you now have the option to call voicemail on either SIM provider. So you can see that here thanks to a user who actually sent this in. So this is great that this is available. I know some people said it was available before, but it didn't seem to work properly. So let me know if it's working for you. Another update we've had in this has to do with RCS messaging. RCS we knew is available in the UK with the Beta 4 release, and if we go back here and we go to Apps and then we go to Messages, this is available in more countries. If we scroll down, you'll see RCS messaging, and it's not available everywhere yet. Apple's still adding it, but currently it's available in the UK, Germany, and Spain. Fido Canada has it, Orange Spain, Orange UK, Rogers Canada, T-Mobile UK, Vodafone Spain, and Yoigo Spain. Possibly other carriers as well, but it seems like it's specific to those so far. Apple continues to add it to carriers though. And if you are messaging someone with it, you can actually go into your messages, and within messages, if you have RCS, it will say that at the bottom. However, the other person you're messaging actually has to have that enabled as well, whether that's on Android or iPhone. Another thing that's been here for a little bit with previous betas is if someone uses the tap back feature with an emoji or maybe a thumbs up, if we double tap this, we can actually see who gave that emoji or tap back, and you'll see who it is. This has been here before, but they changed the way it looks. Now it actually has the emoji or icon along with the person who sent its photo right there. Before it was just sort of a rectangle. So that was in beta 2 or earlier betas as well. Now, if you have macOS Sequoia and you have screen mirroring enabled and your phone's actually in use, you'll see it says iPhone in use, and we have a new icon here. So that's been updated with beta 4 and beta 4 re-release. On the Mac, if you're using macOS Sequoia, you can resize the window for iPhone mirroring. You can make it larger or smaller or just the regular size as it was before. This is much better as you can see things a little bit easier depending on your display size. Within settings, if we go down to camera, within camera, if we go to preserve settings, there's a new option for controls menu. It says preserve the previously used camera tool when expanding the controls menu rather than showing the list of camera tools. If you enable this and we go into the camera and then we expand the controls menu here, you'll see we have the timer. We could switch to maybe the aspect ratio, go out of camera, go back in, open the controls menu again, and we're still on the aspect ratio option. So that's something that's been updated. That's really nice. You don't have to use it, but I really appreciate that. Now the Control Center has an update as well. In the previous video, I talked about how we had a couple icons that have been updated, and I missed one. So we have timer, stopwatch, and alarm. So those have new icons now. And then there's also an update here with now playing. So that's still here, but we don't have the music icon. So even in Beta 4 re-release, if we go in, we've got now playing, and that works, but we don't have music at all. So they didn't bring that back with Beta 4 re-release, but we do have a new toggle under accessibility. So if we scroll all the way down, and I'm not sure exactly why they put these at the bottom. I liked that they were alphabetical before, but we have a new eye tracking toggle if you want to use that accessibility feature once it's set up. If we go into books, there's an update there as well. So if we go out and then we go over and we go into books, wait for it to load. If we're on the same page, you may notice already that continue actually got rid of the gradient and it's just sort of a dark background now. This is just like we have with the now playing music widget. So that's something they've updated. I don't know if that's permanent, but it has been updated in this beta. We also have an update in iCloud itself. If we go into settings and then we go down to iCloud, within iCloud, if we go to storage, so under storage, we'll go in here, wait for it to load. We have an all new icon here at the top. We'll give it just a moment as it completes and you'll see it animate and we have that new information. So it's just a nice new look, a slight update here. The last feature that's been found with iOS 18 Beta 4 is in accessibility. If we go to accessibility, go to touch, then we go to assistive touch, and then we go to customize top level menu, we have two new options. I've already got them set. Type to Siri and Apple Watch mirroring. So it also has the new Siri icon there compared to the old one down here. So that gives you an idea of what it looks like now, and you have those additional options. Now, when it comes to releases this week, we had an unprecedented release of iOS 18 Beta 4 re-release. This was really unexpected. It was late, around 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and Apple released it on a Friday. Now, this is probably to align it with iOS 18 Public Beta 2. That makes the most sense. And for those wondering when that should release, I would expect that as soon as Monday. Based on this time, that's what it seems likely that we'll see iOS 18 Public Beta 2. Then, based on that, maybe we'll wait another week until we have iOS 18 Beta 5. That's typically what Apple does. Maybe we're on a weekly schedule now, and we'll have a few more betas until late August, and then probably the final release sometime in mid to late September, sometime around that time frame with the release of the iPhone 16. Of course, we're still waiting for iOS 17.6. I would also expect that to release sometime around the 29th or 30th. That will bring new features and security updates, minor changes as Apple continues work on iOS 18. We could also see iOS 17.7 Beta 1 release this week, or possibly next, as maybe the last update, but we don't know which one's the last. Maybe 17.6 will be the last major one until iOS 18. We don't really know. We could even get an iOS 17.6.1 before then. As far as the overall experience, well, iOS 17.6 is quite stable. Many people have been very happy with it. There's great reports on the YouTube community poll, and in general, it seems very stable with good battery life, and it's working well. We'll take a look at battery life in just a moment, but as far as iOS 18 Public Beta 1 on older devices, it seems to be pretty good. I'm running it on the iPhone 11 here, and we'll take a look at performance in a moment. It's not as good as on a newer phone, but it's definitely something that seems to be running okay, just not great. iOS 18 Beta 4 and Beta 4 re-release basically seem to run the same so far, so whether you're scrolling with ProMotion or you're just going into an app like Music and having that load, browsing, or even loading a game, everything feels basically identical in every single way. The overall experience seems to be pretty good, but there's still some bugs that remain. They fixed a lot of things, such as keyboard lag, which seems to be fixed, but there's still things that remain, such as screen dimming. The screen dimming bug did not seem to be fixed for everyone with the Beta 4 re-release. However, some said that it did fix it. Also, the volume bug is still there. Recently used emojis don't seem to update. Frequently used don't seem to be updating regularly, even with iOS 18 Beta 4 re-release. And there's also issues with creating stickers for some. Some people are unable to adjust their volume, just maybe in the regular phone itself. They have to go into an app that uses volume, such as Music, and others are having songs auto-pausing when you're playing them on Spotify and you pull your phone out of your pocket and unlock it. So there's definitely some odd issues here. Now, as far as any other improvements or changes, well, the camera seems to be about the same. If you take a look at a few different photos here, I didn't really notice a difference with iOS 17.6 or iOS 18 Beta 4, so I don't see any changes there. there, but let me know if you've experienced anything. But many people say that it's more responsive, the camera app is not crashing, and in general seems to be working much better. So if I snap a photo quickly, we can go right into it. It seems to work properly, and it's not crashing for me. Many people were having issues with that. As far as the overall performance, well, we talked a little bit about that earlier, but performance on older devices is pretty good, but does lag from time to time. So if we go into maybe music here, you'll see it might be a little bit slow to respond, but public beta 2 hopefully will resolve that. We're still waiting for that. And this is actually on public beta 1, but in general, the experience seems to be okay. It's just not incredible yet. But again, they need to work out these bugs. As far as the heat of the device, well, with beta 4 re-release, so far it seems to be reasonable. Of course, it could still be processing in the background and definitely have some issues, but let's take a look quickly. And you'll see with iOS 18 beta 4 re-release, we're right around 92 to 93 degrees Fahrenheit. When I tested this before with beta 4, it was actually around 100 degrees Fahrenheit. On iOS 17.6, well, just sitting here, it's nice and cool at around 85 degrees Fahrenheit. So both are doing pretty well, and I think in general, this seems to be a much better update. Maybe they've fixed a few thermal issues and more with beta 4 re-release. Now, I did run benchmarks on both the iPhone 11 and 15 Pro Max, as many had asked. iPhone 11 is actually running iOS 18 public beta 1 and scored 1,744 for single core, 3,187 for multi-core. I ran it when it was around 50% battery. On the iPhone 15 Pro Max on iOS 18 beta 4 re-release, we have 2,784 for single core, 6,537 for multi-core. So it definitely could improve, but it's within margin of error, and this should give you an idea of what yours could be around depending on the device you're using. As far as battery life, well, I've only used this for about a day or so, or not even at this point, but as far as battery life on beta 4, well, it's been okay. It does get me through a day, but it's not phenomenal. So if we go to battery here, battery health, you'll see I'm down to 93% with 257 cycles. You can see coconut battery here, and getting me through the day. If we take a look at the last 10 days, yesterday I had 2 hours and 7 minutes of screen active time, 5 hours and 53 minutes of screen idle time, and used about 50% of my battery. Now, I am on other devices such as the iPad, and it does get me through the day, but it's not as good as maybe 17.5.1. As far as iOS 17.6, thanks to Cameron for sending in his battery life, and this is on an iPhone 15 Pro Max with 100% battery capacity and 17.6 RC. He had 7 hours and 2 minutes of screen active time, 2 hours and 51 minutes of screen idle time, and used a little bit over 50% of his battery. So I'd say that's pretty good overall. That will easily get him through the day, and that's without charging. So it's definitely doing much better and more like it was new again. So much, much better. Now, if you're wondering if you should install iOS 17.6 RC or iOS 18 Beta 4, well, if you were wanting to try out iOS 17.6, I do expect it to have a new build number when it comes out in a week or so or next week. And based on that, if you wanted to get the public version and not have any other beta updates, turn off the beta update now. And if there is an update, you'll have it. If there isn't, well, you already were on it and you just had it early. As far as iOS 18 Beta 4 re-release, well, if you haven't installed iOS 18 yet, I'd probably skip it and wait for Public Beta 2. But if you're on Beta 3 or any of the betas from iOS 18, I would definitely upgrade. Now, as far as what you had to say with the comments, let's take a look at a few of them. 29 Kalel said, 17.6 RC is stellar. Battery is phenomenal on the 15 Pro Max. Watched a movie for a while, 2 hours at full charge, and then surfed the web for another hour after that, and only used 8% battery. The battery sips with this version of iOS. Jeremy DeBose said, iOS 18 on 15 Pro Max has been completely stable with solid battery and no heat. Only issue I've had is it removed my frequent emoji from the keyboard, and it won't update the favorites over time on Beta 4. Chris Palmer 4983 said, I've been using iOS 17.6 RC on my iPhone 15 Pro. Battery life has been good overall. I usually get an all-day battery life, but that is with moderate use. Overall, I haven't experienced any major bugs. I do have a few minor bugs, nothing that makes me want to revert back to iOS 17.5.1. Good update so far. Username not required said, 18 Beta 4 is night and day from the first beta. I no longer have heating issues, and the only problem is unreliable hotspot and battery. Hanzala Fayez said, currently still using public beta 1 of iOS 18 on my iPhone 15 Pro. It seems to be very stable and good to use. Very minor bugs or issues so far. The only bug I've seen so far is with screen time, where it shows the wrong amount of screen time I've been on my phone. Apart from that, there haven't been any other major issues or bugs to report. Battery life is good as well. It does go down slightly quicker compared to iOS 17.6 Beta 3, but it still lasts me the whole day. Some heat issues where my phone sometimes gets warm with general use. Raymond King said, on iOS 18 Beta 4 noticed a few things fixed, and some also I didn't expect to be fixed that were even present in iOS 17 stable builds. The one being when I was connected to public Wi-Fi and made a FaceTime call, it would drop the Wi-Fi, but in this update it's fine. Also, the customization on the home screen is fixed and screen time is fixed. Also, it does seem more fluid. Great vid as always. Thomas H2604 said, battery life is really good on iOS 18 Beta 4. My first full day using this update was Wednesday, 5 hours screen on time and 4 hours 11 minutes screen off time with about 80% used. iPhone 15. Magnificent Production said, hi Aaron, I'm on iOS 18 Beta 4 with my iPhone 15 Pro Max. The battery life is definitely poor. I'm also experiencing Wi-Fi connectivity issues from time to time, ghosting on my screen after a phone call, and lag when typing. I understand that it's a beta, and as such, this is the process we endure for feedback, so Apple can make this necessary adjustment. So that's everything with iOS 18 Beta 4, Beta 4 re-release, Public Beta 1, and iOS 17.6 RC. Of course, all of these things should be updated probably next week at some time, and I'm looking forward to any other features and updates we get there. Let me know if there's additional features you've found so far that I haven't mentioned in my previous video or this one. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below, and of course I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.